We usually think of a mosquito bite as just an itchy annoyance, right? But in a lot of places, and especially in India, that one single insect can unleash two totally different kinds of nightmares. So today, we're going to unpack Japanese encephalitis and chikungunya, two diseases, one very common enemy.
And that really brings us to the core question here. How is it even possible for one type of bug, a mosquito, to deliver such wildly different diseases? I mean, one attacks the brain with lethal force, while the other goes after your joints, causing this crippling, agonizing pain. It's really a tale of two viruses, two completely different ways they spread, and two very different battles to fight them.
All right, so first up, we've got Japanese encephalitis, or JE. For this one, I want you to picture a stealthy, really dangerous assassin. It's a flavivirus, so it's in the same family as dengue and West Nile, but it has a very, very specific and frankly terrifying target.
There's a reason they call this thing the brain invader. And trust me, it's a good one. While most of the time an infection is pretty mild, or you might not even know you have it, in about 1 out of every 250 cases, the virus launches an all-out assault on the brain, and that causes encephalitis, a really severe and dangerous inflammation.
And this is where it gets incredibly serious. For the people who develop that severe encephalitis, the case fatality rate is as high as 30%. Just let that sink in. Nearly 1 out of every 3 people with severe symptoms will not make it. That number right there tells you exactly why J is such a massive public health concern where it exists.
So how does this virus even get to people in the first place? Well, it hangs out in this cycle between Culex mosquitoes and what we call amplifying hosts, mostly pigs and wild water birds. These animals get a ton of the virus in their blood, which then infects more mosquitoes that bite them. Humans get infected when one of those mosquitoes bites us. But here's the interesting part. We're considered dead-end hosts. We just don't get enough virus in our own blood to pass it back to another mosquito.
And let's look at its attack profile. It's especially cruel because it disproportionately hits children under 15. After an incubation period of maybe a couple of weeks, the severe cases can just explode with high fever, seizures, and paralysis. But the nightmare doesn't stop there. For those who actually survived a severe form of the disease, a shocking 30 to 50% are left with permanent neurological or cognitive damage.
Okay, now let's completely switch gears and look at our second disease. This one presents a totally different kind of threat. We're moving from a killer to something more like a torturer. This is chikungunya.
Chikungunya's nickname is just as descriptive, the joint breaker. The name itself actually comes from a word that means to become contorted, and it perfectly describes how people literally stoop over from the insane joint pain. While it's very rarely fatal, its main weapon is this debilitating, widespread pain that can seriously feel like your joints are being broken.
And to get a sense of the sheer scale chikungunya can reach, just look at this number. Back in 2006, during one massive outbreak in India, over 1.3 million people were affected. This is not a stealth virus like JE. This thing can absolutely explode through a population, causing widespread misery and pretty much bringing entire communities to a grinding halt.
And the way it spreads is totally different from JE. It's a much more direct route. The culprit here is the Aedes mosquito, the one that bites during the day. And the cycle is simple. It goes straight from an infected human to a mosquito and then back to another human. So unlike JE, people who are sick with chikungunya do have enough virus in their blood to infect other mosquitoes. We become the main reservoir during an outbreak.
So what does an attack look like? Well, it hits people of all ages, and it comes on fast. Sudden high fever and that signature horrible pain in multiple joints. But the real kicker is what happens after the initial illness is over. For about 10 to 30% of people, that joint pain just doesn't leave. It morphs into a chronic, debilitating arthritis that can last for months, or in some cases, even years.
All right, so we've profiled our two contenders. Now it's time for the main event, the head-to-head comparison. This is where the differences really pop. So let's just break this down. The mosquito is different. Culex for JE, Aedes for chikungunya. The main symptom is the biggest clue, right? Brain inflammation versus severe joint pain. The fatality rates couldn't be more different. High for JE, extremely low for chikungunya. And the long-term damage they leave behind is also totally distinct. Permanent neurological damage from JE versus that chronic, nagging arthritis from chikungunya. Even where they like to hang out is different. JE is mostly rural, while chikungunya is an equal opportunity menace in both urban and rural areas.
So, look, if you remember absolutely nothing else from this, remember this right here. The whole story boils down to the primary target. Japanese encephalitis is an assault on the brain. Chikungunya is a war on the joints. Two totally different nightmares delivered by one tiny insect.
Okay, so understanding the threat is one thing, but how do we actually fight back? Well, it turns out the strategies have to be just as different as the diseases themselves.
This slide just sums it up perfectly. For the brain invader, JE, our #1 weapon, our best defense is vaccination. We have safe and effective vaccines for it. But for the joint breaker, Chikungunya, the fight is all about something called source reduction, which is just a fancy way of saying we have to get rid of the places where mosquitoes love to breed.
And this is a fight that literally everyone can join. Preventing chikungunya often comes down to these 3 super simple steps right around your own home. Empty any standing water, that's where the Aedes mosquito lays its eggs. Clean out those containers to scrub away any eggs that are left behind, and cover up any water storage you have. It's basically community defense in action, and it works.
Now, on a national level in India, this fight is highly coordinated. You have the Universal Immunization Program, which leads the charge on getting JE vaccinations out to high-risk areas. And then you have the National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program, which handles the broader fight against the mosquitoes themselves for both of these diseases.
So we'll end with this thought. We know how to fight these diseases now, but the battlefield itself is changing. As our climate changes and cities just keep expanding, the habitats for both the Culex and the Aedes mosquitoes are shifting. So the really crucial question for the future is, which one of these mosquitoes is going to expand its territory faster? And how are we going to adapt our fight to keep up?